CCG Media presents High Tech Sunday. On today's episode of High Tech Sunday, our hosts, Dr. Mark Vaughn and Lango Deen, sit down with engineer, author, and artist Warren Wilson Jr. for a conversation on the importance of STEM in the upcoming Black generation and an introduction to wealth building for kids. Up first is Corning Incorporated's Manager of Technical Talent Pipelining, Dr. Mark Vaughn. Next is Career Communication Group's Senior Technology Editor, Lango Deen. Finally, our esteemed guest, Warren Wilson Jr. Wilson Jr. has taken his passion for math and the arts and has created Brown Money, an illustrated children's book that introduces kids to STEM, investing, real estate, job security, and entrepreneurship. With his hands-on approach, Wilson Jr. wrote and illustrated every image in the book to ensure that the correct images were captured to reflect the lessons. Wilson Jr. has performed readings at schools across Atlanta and Memphis. And without further delay, High Tech Sunday, featuring Dr. Mark Vaughn and Lango Deen.
Well, thank you so much for that introduction, Brandon, and good afternoon once again, everyone. It's certainly a great opportunity that we have every time we come together for High Tech Sunday to spend some time getting to know leading STEMists in the communities of women of color, Black engineer, and people, period, who have been making a difference as they have been pursuing their STEM journeys. Interestingly enough, they aren't always necessarily people who are practicing STEM careers, but they are absolutely contributing to the community. And so it's really been cool having the opportunity to get to know so many people. And as I always say, every round seems to go higher, and that is the case today as we welcome Warren Wilson Jr. to the broadcast. Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
Doing great, Dr. Vaughn. How are you?
I'm doing wonderfully well and looking forward to the conversation today as we think about messaging for future STEM leaders. I heard in the introduction that we've got entrepreneur, we've got engineer, we've got artist. And so those particular pathways present an interesting mix, I think, that we are really looking forward to delving into. So to kick things off, it's always pretty cool to have the opportunity to just have kind of an elevator speech moment where we get to know each of our guests a little better. And so if we happen to get on the elevator together in the region of the world that I'm in upstate New York at our research and development facility, you'd have maybe a minute or two to ride up and tell us a little bit about yourself. So with that in mind, can you let us know a little bit about who Warren Wilson Jr. is? What's your background?
My background is in engineering. I got my bachelor's in electrical engineering. So after college, I basically have kind of bounced around from industry to industry, basically. I started off in quality engineering, working in automotive. There I basically worked with most of the electronic car parts, the buttons on the dashboard, many of the components in the cockpit of the car, things of that nature. Left there, worked at in my hometown at a place called Barber International where they make like cookware and stuff like that. So I got to basically work under a R&D engineer and get some direct experience with him. And then upon that, I ended up making that move to Memphis. Got that call for a job at Mitsubishi Electric. That's a power transformer plant here in Memphis, where I worked as a quality engineer. So there I was over like the fiber optics, the wiring of the transformers, the controls, making sure that all the signatures were, in check before we passed the transformer on from phase to phase. Things of that nature. And I left that company, and now I work for a company called Elos MedTech, where we make surgical drills and incision tools. So let's say you're getting a knee replaced and you need that, the surgeon has to, make an incision. We make basically those tools that they use to drill inside you or make cuts or what have you to, replace tendons or to repair bones or cartilage or things of that nature. So that's my engineering background. But on the side, I've written 3 books now, working on the 4th book. I love to paint on canvas when I get the free time. I love to design. I've designed clothes, you name it, man. I even started a startup electronic company in January. So I have like 5 products that I started out with, various array of chargers and, power banks, things of that nature. But I just kind of, me being an electrical engineer, just always wanted to kind of put my print on that industry as well. So, I'm kind of all over the place, but, if whatever I can think of, I just about give it a try. So.
Wow, that's a mouthful. When you think about some of what you just described, you are truly wearing that electrical engineering really well. And so let's back up a little bit. So you told us how at the college level you studied electrical engineering, got your undergrad, and then went on into the workforce and have multiple entrepreneur endeavors. But how did you land in engineering in the first place? So as you were growing up, how is it that you got turned on to STEM and electrical engineering in particular?
So, I was basically just that curious kid, man. I was always taking things apart, get a new toy, play with it for a week, then I get curious as far as, why does it light up when I push that button? Or, when I hit a button, how does the TV know to change screens? Or, why does the refrigerator stay cold? Why does the microwave get hot? So I guess that curiosity, I was just super curious, always asking my mom a million questions. And, when I would ask her like, okay, well, for me to be able to take things apart or create things or design things or, make electronics, like what can I do? And she's like, well, as far as I know, engineers, that's what engineers do. They design things, they make things, they kind of find out how things work. And, they're very, kind of mechanically inclined, and they're able to, create things, take things from an idea to something that you can actually touch. And so, that kind of, led me to engineers for the most part as far as that. But at the same time, my creative side, me growing up liking to do art and like to design things, that's kind of bled over into it because I just have this, I just have this passion for basically taking an idea and then, putting it on paper, coming out with a plan, finding the right pieces, getting the team together, and then, making it come to life. That just brings a smile to my face every time to think that something can go from up here to on paper, and then next thing you know, you're holding it in your hand. So I don't know, it's just always been amazing. And then, when I hear about guys like Michelangelo from back in the day, and, he was an engineer, artist, musician, just multiple talents, multiple things. So when I hear about, guys like that growing up, it's like, oh, okay, so I don't have to do one thing. I don't have to be good at one thing. I can try many things that I want, and still be kind of good at them. And I don't know, I guess at an early age, that gave me that permission to just kind of explore, to explore multiple lanes, and I'm kind of one of those guys where if I meet somebody and you have a talent that I like, eventually I'm going to adapt it from you. I'm going to absorb that from you. I'm kind of a sponge if it's something that's really catching my eye. I don't know. It's just kind of how I am. I picked up painting from my mom. She used to paint and draw. And then my dad is always working on cars, fixing on things around the house. So he was very mechanically inclined. I kind of always saw him try to fix things himself. Never wanted to take it to somebody. He was the one to take it apart at the house. So, having both sides at home just kind of built that confidence at an early age to just be creative, but at the same time, I had a respect for being mechanically inclined because I saw the benefit in, both, and they both just kind of, I can't pick one, I guess, it's just one of those things,
I think, like you said, you asked yourself the question as you were getting in touch with that Renaissance man kind of mode, looking at folks like Michelangelo, Leonardo da Vinci, same kind of situation in terms of he was not just an artist, he was a scientist as well. But you asked the question, oh, I don't have to just pick one. And so that mindset seems to have been something that you became comfortable with even in your youth. And it's really cool that you've got, it it sounds like you've got some cool parents, because a lot of times when I'm speaking to engineers about being tinkerers, it's like they didn't actually ask their parents about why something works the way it works until they had taken it apart. And then, mama was usually like, if you don't put this back together. So it sounds like, you had support there. One of the things that we have found to be really interesting on High Tech Sunday, and I really appreciate, is there is this informing that people commonly have shared that is based upon their spiritual experiences, their spirituality. We know that spirituality can take on a lot of different forms, a lot of different levels for folks, but we have found that invariably there has been this spiritual component that informed and kind of upheld, undergirded folks as they were going through their journeys. Has that been the case for you? Has there been a role that spirituality has played for you as a child and even on up to now?
I would say yes, because me believing basically that there is a higher power, I know that basically whatever thoughts I have or whatever things that I see as a possibility, that's what my human brain can comprehend. The little bit of knowledge that I have, it's kind of like it keeps me going, because I know that, okay, it always seems like whatever idea I have, no matter how big I think it is, there's always something way bigger, and there's always, a bigger purpose attached to it. It just plays a big role, It's just knowing that I can always just try things, and, I'm not going to say it's going to work out, but basically, there's a higher power that basically has that decision. So it's almost like when I try it, if it doesn't work, okay, it just wasn't meant to be. And if it does work, then okay, let me keep going. Let me dig deeper. Clearly I'm on to something. So, and also just growing up in the church, I would always kind of see the power of the tongue, the way that the pastor would kind of speak to the members of the church and have them all on one accord and be able to influence and be able to, spread a message and see it have that spark in people. And so, kind of now, the more I kind of build my platform, the more knowledge I get, and the more I'm learning to speak with different people and younger people and learning how to network with people from different communities and stuff like that. I just really see the power in the tongue, like coming to fruition. I see the power of basically, using your voice. It's so much power in that, even now I can get on YouTube and I can watch a 10-minute video from somebody I've never met. And the power of the words they speak could inspire me to make some type of move that I've been holding back for 2 years. So I would say, spirituality definitely plays a big part in that. It just kind of keeps me going.
And it's interesting to hear you speak about the power of the tongue, because you were introduced as, among other things, an author, and you shared that you have written 3 books. You're on your 4th book now. And so clearly the power of words is something that you have embraced and harnessed as you are sharing your message. And so in a way, it's almost like you are pastoral in that sense. You talked about how the pastor would get the word out to the congregation, and you're using your words, your message, to get the word out to the STEM church, if you will. So think about this. So we're understanding that you have a message for future STEM leaders. And so I want to probe that a little bit, but you had shared that currently in your vocation, you're actually an engineer for a surgical equipment company, and as you were talking about the tools that you might need for hip replacement or bone repair or tendons, I was getting a little creeped out there. But it is sometimes lost on folks the really various sectors of endeavor that engineers touch, and so with that understanding as the backdrop. So you've had work on optical systems, controls, now surgical, all with that one electrical engineering background. Can you talk to us about what the importance of a STEM education is, especially in the Black community?
Definitely. So to me, the importance of a STEM background or education is basically with all that math and science and physics, it just gives you this versatility, because just about every industry, every sector uses math, science, calculus, some types of physics or something like that. And what that does is, with an engineering background or with an engineering degree, that allows you to be very versatile and be a chameleon, because I can use those same principles for, the scientific method, or, how to do investigations, or how to break something down, or problem solving, or, doing a root cause analysis. Those types of things in engineering allows you can take those skills just about everywhere, and that's why I think that is so important, because just look around, everything is getting automated. Things are slowly becoming personless. Everything is just about using some type of wireless connection, or it's being ran by electricity. So the importance of STEM is very great, because I just see the next generation, that's all they're going to know. Like right now, we're on a Zoom call. We're in 2 or 3 different states, but we're all having a phone call right now. That was unheard of 10 years ago. So I just think that that's the route of things is going. Look at Tesla, look at Apple, look at what all these companies have done, and they all stand on the foundation of STEM. So I kind of preach that to the youth, as far as the Black youth, because I feel like that is the next booming industry. We're seeing all this high tech stuff coming out every year. We got some new type of technology that's coming out, and 5 years ago we didn't even think it was possible. And I just see the job market starting to transform. Even working in retail, I hate to say it, but some retail positions, with the way that we're automating everything, they may not exist 10 or 15 years from now. A lot of these jobs that are physical or manual may not exist. So I kind of push kids towards STEM. Science is always going to be needed. Doctors always going to be needed. Engineers always going to be needed. Math always going to be needed. We can't get away from it. So I kind of push kids towards that. If you're going to pick the traditional school route, I'm a huge advocate for STEM, because I feel like the job market is going to be top heavy with STEM jobs in the next 10 to 15 years. And I really feel like, not to say that if you're not in the STEM background that you won't have luck finding a job, but at the same time, I think it's going to be just a little bit harder in 10 to 15 years without you knowing some type of programming, without you knowing some type of virtual reality, or how to use a phone, or, years ago, when Windows would go from Windows 98 to Windows 2000, you would say, oh yeah, I can skip that. I'll wait 5 years till Windows comes out. But now it's to the point where if you stay behind on technology, you will get blown past. And then next thing you know, the skills that were, beneficial yesterday might not be beneficial tomorrow, because technology is moving so fast. I can really believe by this time next year we'll be on hologram, on Zoom call. So I'm just kind of big advocate for pushing kids into STEM, because I just believe that's the future, and I want us to honestly dominate that sector.
And so that if they go to 3D on Zoom, we already have challenges with folks turning on their video cameras. It ain't happening if it's 3D. Folks will be like, no, I gotta go get my hair cut, and I've got to make sure that I've got my mani-pedi and everything else. But no, seriously, you said something really powerful. You said that what we're doing that is commonplace today, jumping on a Zoom. I'm presently on vacation in North Carolina. I don't know if Ray and the rest of the team on the CCG side are in Maryland. Don't know where you are, but like you said, we've been on Zooms, many of us, with people not only from across this country, but from around the world. And you said that it was unheard of a decade ago. I would say to you that even though the technology was certainly out there, the vast majority of folks had not actually become accustomed to it until we were thrust into staying at home, lockdown, work from home. 13, 14 months ago. And so it was like the global crisis created a global embracing, whether you like it or not. You had to go virtual. And it is definitely the case that even as we get back to better, this isn't going to go away. Companies have learned that you can save money. Instead of sending somebody over to Japan for that meeting, jump on a Zoom, jump on a WebEx, for example, and you can still get the work done. And then I have a 7-year-old granddaughter. She's on Zoom for school part of the day. And so while she doesn't necessarily understand the technology behind it, it's going to be commonplace for her as she is growing through the rest of her education as a K-12 and then on to college. Who knows what kind of telepresence there will be. And so I think that you really have hit the nail on the head. You talked about artificial intelligence. You talked about automation. You talked about coding. I mean, it's huge. And so let's think about you and how all of that interplay has happened. So you got the engineering, so you got the STEM down, but you're also an artist. You're also a creative person. So talk a little bit about that intersection of the arts and the sciences, if you will, the arts and STEM, and I guess the way that they complement each other.
So I go a little bit deeper into my background. So in elementary school, way back, 4th, 5th grade, I got accepted into this performing arts school. So at that performing arts school, the school was called Power APAC, basically academic performing arts curriculum. So there we took like music, we took theater classes, we took art classes. We even had to take a little dance classes, but it just exposed us to the arts and, to the things that were being done around the globe that we didn't see, I grew up in Jackson, Mississippi, small town, but we didn't get to see those things. Most kids aren't learning music at the age of 10. Most of us aren't painting on a canvas at that young age or learning about these old artists and things like that. So being exposed to the arts back then just really kind of kicked things up for me and just got me introduced to a lot of different styles, a lot of different variety. And with that, kind of being exposed to a lot at that moment kind of helped me to, I guess, increase my interest and expand on that and to like expand my own style. But growing up, man, I was just very into drawing and, doing art. I used to like design clothes. I would paint images on clothes or I would, design shoes. And I also, in high school, I took like a graphic design course during high school. So there I learned, as far as how to do stationery, making logos, making packaging for products, doing stuff like that. So that kind of, helped out as well. And what I would say is that with engineering, they kind of go hand in hand, where with engineering, you're always following the principles of the standards, or you're following some type of spec, or you're following whatever the laws of physics says or whatever like that. So, and that's cool. I'm a very technical guy. I love rules. I love way stuff stays in bounds. I love the fact that 2 + 2 is always 4. But when it comes to art, there are no rules. There are no barriers. And that kind of, that interests me because, after 8 hours of being technical and have to always be right, it's relaxing to do art. Whereas I don't have to be right. When I paint an orange, hey, I can make the orange shape like a triangle if I want to. There's no rules. I don't have to follow any rules anymore. And at the same time, it's like, I don't know, it could become a style. It could become a style that becomes so respected. Even look at Picasso. A lot of his paintings look so unorthodox, but that's really a older version of just cubism that, that Africans were using hundreds of years before. And it's even math involved in that, because a lot of the things that catch our eye are, things that are kind of aesthetically pleasing, things that are usually proportionate, things that are usually even-sided, or things that have familiar shapes or things like that. So with art and engineering, the way I'm kind of able to blend those together is basically, let's say with my electronic products, I basically designed the logo that I use and designed all the packaging and things like that. And what that does is my creative side allows me to take care of the technical, but then when it comes to the creative side, the packaging and the logos and what colors go together, what's going to look aesthetically pleasing, I'm able to basically use one side of the brain when I'm trying to do one half of the project. And then when it comes to the other half of the project, usually when you would outsource or you would kind of get somebody else involved, most of the times I'm able to kind of have an opinion on that as well. So I think that's how I kind of blend them both together as well, if you will, with the engineering is kind of just the technical, and then the fact that, art kind of has less rules, but at the same time, it's still a creative process, It's still just art and engineering are very similar, whereas you take that idea and then you have to transfer it onto some type of medium, which is going to either be paper or, some type of spreadsheet in engineering or some type of document where you're getting your ideas together and organized. And then once you have those ideas organized, you make them come to life. So if that's a painting, me getting my ideas organized, maybe doing a sketch. I might go from an idea to a sketch, and then from that sketch, it turns into an actual painting. And it's just like engineering. I go from an idea, I write down what it'll take to make this idea happen. I write down a plan, I write down a process, may even use a spreadsheet. And then, I put all those ingredients together. And then next thing you know, I'm holding whatever product that I was designing or whatnot. So I guess that's kind of the best way I can kind of explain as far as how they, merge or communicate with each other for me. But I don't know. I just kind of, I love diving into both sides though.
And actually, I was going to ask you if you were on a debate stage and you had to make the case for adding the A to STEM and making it STEAM, which is actually a debate that happens in the STEM world even today. So it sounds like you've made that case in that one can inform the other. And I, being a STEMist myself, so my background is in physics and engineering as well. And I remembered when I was younger and was into instrumental music, and as I was loving just making music, and then realizing the timing that goes into music, realizing that those notes that I was producing had a frequency that could be actually understood by physics. I used to be a runner, believe it or not, Ray Kennedy, and you could identify, the physics behind how much energy was going to be needed to run up a hill as I was doing cross country, and then doing the quick calculation, realizing it is not going to work out for me this time. And so, but really, the interplay is, even if you are someone who is like, nope, STEM, STEM, that's all there is. A is always there. It really is. And so I think that that's a debate that is going to soon be ending, because folks will just have to acknowledge. But let's talk about something again. Your experience, you had the opportunity to go to the APAC program. And I mean, you said from the arts to performing arts, the dance, that's something that we'll have to see if we can find on YouTube to see you demonstrating. But the truth of the matter is that not everyone, so you took that and went on to a 4-year school, not everyone is actually either able to or interested in going to a 4-year school these days. Does that mean that they can't be successful in STEM?
No, that's not the case.
What are the alternatives, would you say?
I would say the alternatives would be trade schools, or just getting very good at business, because you don't need a business degree to get good at business. You can just study the greats. You can read a lot of books. You can get very knowledgeable in the tax area. As far as how business taxes go, tax benefits, things like that. Or you can even, you could work and save your money and, dive into real estate, or, play in the stock market. So it's multiple ways to find success outside of a 4-year university. Even now, I believe Google is coming out with courses so that you can get like certifications to work exclusively with them. And I think what that's going to do is cut out, I hate to say it, but that's going to cut out a lot of the pool of people that these colleges usually would pick from. That's going to knock a lot of them out right there, because at that point, you're able to you bypass a 4-year traditional university, room and board, traveling, buying all these books, several grand in books every year and things like that. And, it's to the point where now, if you got a Wi-Fi connection, man, you can just about learn anything you want to learn. It's going to be to the point where YouTube is going to be the new university, I think, eventually, because, man, I've learned a number of things from YouTube that I never even heard of in college. So I think just kind of having that gopher mentality, that kind of, all right, what is it that I want to do? All right, what is it that I don't know? Because that's something you always got to ask yourself. What are the things that I don't know? If you can find out the things that you don't know as fast as you can either find people to do those things that you don't know, or you can start getting better at the things that you don't know. But I think that, man, moving forward, it's gonna be real tough for colleges to kind of keep a hand on these students. Just like with the NBA, you got all these colleges that usually use these these potential NBA players, and these guys go to college for free. They go on a scholarship that's kind of not a fair payoff. And now you got the NBA having development leagues. You got kids going across seas, 17, 18 years old, bypassing the 4-year traditional university, and getting right to the big bucks, getting right to being where they want to be. And if you're able to find out how to fast forward your career, by all means do it. I don't believe you have to go get $40,000 in debt to have a future. I think we're starting to move away from that era. I think that's starting to go away. It's getting to the point where a little bit of YouTube and if you have a gopher mentality, man, you could go learn a skill on YouTube and commit 2 days a week, and next thing you know, you got a lucrative thing going on. Even if you just say you want to cut grass, hey, learn how to cut grass, build a team. Next thing you know, you got a company. Next thing you know, you got several lots, several contracts, and I don't know. You just kind of have to have that go-getter mentality, and if you have it, you don't need school. And I went to school, so I'm not trying to. I'm not down in traditional university education at all. But at the same time, I just have a lot of buddies that have found success outside of school. So I don't know. I think we're walking into a new era.
And so I think that two things come to mind. First, that was a very provocative position statement, and I'm sure that there will probably be a future segment on High Tech Sunday where we drill down on that topic a little bit more, because it is the case, like you said, you got that formal training, but you also have this entrepreneurial mindset, and I think that what you're saying is that there's a place for both, and it'll be an interesting conversation to have. But there are ways for you to identify the path that will lead to your success. So I'm going to wrap up with just one last question for now, and then I'm going to hand it off to Lango Deen. You mentioned in the briefing meeting that you would like to have been the you that you needed growing up. So can you say what that means and how that applies to how you're approaching the mission that you're on as you engage youth and mentor them?
So when I speak on that basically just means being that example that I could have used. So at a younger age, if I met a young Black guy that was an engineer, I probably would have wanted to be an engineer sooner. If I thought that doing certain things was cool because I saw an example of it, I probably did it sooner, because I think a lot of times we kind of wait on permission through seeing an example. It's kind of like, oh man, well, I've never seen anybody do it that way, so man, I'm not gonna do it that way. So I don't want to look weird, or I want to make sure I still fit in and I fit the social norm. But I'm just kind of out to be the guy that you do see doing those things, because I'm sure there's a lot of kids that basically, to the majority, they might get labeled as nerds, and I want them to know that, hey, dude, it's cool being a nerd.
Yes.
We're the ones who are always learning. We're always like, we win in the end, and that's what because I was that kid. I was that kid who was like, I kind of had my own style. People, oh man, that's weird, and at times it would be like, oh man, well, and it would kind of deter me from doing certain things because, oh man, what if I do this way and I won't look cool? I don't want kids to think like that. I tell my younger brothers all the time, like, you don't have to do what the crowd is doing to fit in, So I'm just kind of out to be, I guess, the cool nerd. If we saw a cooler version of Urkel, I want to be that guy, so that kids can, kind of, just kind of wake up to the idea of being a nerd, being in the tech, being technical, being very curious about, how things work, and, just wanting to know more than just at the surface level. So when I say, as far as trying to be the person that I could have used when I was younger, that's that. It's kind of just injecting that confidence into a lot of our young Black youth. Because a lot of times I think we wait for a music video, or we wait for a famous celebrity to tell us that something is cool. And I want them to know that, hey, the stuff that you think is cool to you, it is cool. Stop waiting on somebody to confirm that it's cool or that it's the right thing to do. Just do it, follow your heart, dude. Like, be passionate about it. And I want to be that example of when kids see me and they say, oh man, well, man, he doesn't ever look like he's worried about what somebody's gonna say, because I wasn't that kid growing up. So now that I've gained that confidence, I want to send it back down the line and, just kind of, I don't know, just give kids that strength to, reach past looking for permission from the majority to do something that they think is cool, whether you're going to get called weird, whether you won't fit in, whether you're one person out of 100 that's doing it that way, that's okay.
And I think that what you've kind of reiterated and confirmed, and Lango Deen will certainly remember this. We had a guest several weeks, if not months ago, who talked about embracing your unicorn, and it seems like that's the same message. The thing about you that others may think is different is actually the thing that makes you unique, and that's what we need. And so I think that was a very great way for us to wrap up this segment. As we look at career and pipeline, I'm happy to turn things over to Lango Deen, who is going to take us further in the conversation. Hey, Lango, how's it
going? You're listening to High Tech Sunday, featuring Dr. Mark Vaughn, Lango Deen, and our special guest, engineer, author, and artist, Warren Wilson Jr. The deadline for 2021 Women of Color STEM Conference nominations is quickly approaching. Stay tuned for a message from our sponsor.
It's time to nominate your heroes. Get your nominations in for the Women of Color STEM Conference. The Women of Color STEM Conference is an annual conference focused on empowering women of color in the STEM field. The 26th annual conference will be held on October 7th through the 9th, 2021. Please visit www.ccgheroes.com for more details on our nomination process. All peer-reviewed nominations are due on April 30th, 2021. All Outstanding Achievement Award nominations are due on May 15th, 2021. Again, please visit www.ccgheroes.com for more details on our nomination process.
Again, the window for nominations is closing, so please visit www.ccgheroes.com for more information. Now, back to the show.
Well, welcome to the show, Mr. Wilson. It's great to have you on the show today. I read your book, Brown Money, yesterday. Really interesting book. And I was wondering if you know a real young boy called Jay and his dad, and why you decided to write a children's book.
So I don't know a real kid named Jay and his dad, but it's going to sound weird, but in a sense, I am the son and the father in that book, basically. So Jay is the kid version of me, and the dad is basically kind of me now, because the dad basically passes on, a interest in STEM, and he's an engineer, but at the same time, he's very entrepreneurial, and, he's into investing, and, he's just into believing in abundance and believing that you have multiple options and there's multiple ways to find success. So in a sense, I'm kind of both characters, the character Jay is basically, as I was just speaking with Dr. Vaughn, as far as me giving back to, or me kind of being the person that I could have used when I was younger. In that book, I'm doing just that. So I'm basically am Jay in that book. I don't know. I just kind of wanted to, be able to give an example of that, because I know there are going to be a lot of Black youth, Black boys and girls that are going to read that book and just hopefully be inspired by it.
That's wonderful. So talk to us a little more about the process of you writing this book, because you talked about being both characters, being both Jay on the one hand, a kid having all these questions, and then being the father who's had all these experiences and having to pass on tips and how-tos and knowledge in a way that Jay is going to understand. So what was the process like for you?
What I first did was basically I wrote a list of the things that I had kind of been picking up over the years. I kind of wrote down things that I picked up, during college, things that I've learned over the years. And during the time that I wrote that book, about a year prior to that, I had began to be very heavy into learning about the stock market, learning about how to do real estate deals, buying houses, understanding tax breaks, tax cuts, things like that. So what I did was basically write a list of all those things. And I already had the story kind of in mind. I knew I wanted to do a story between a father and son, but I just had to find a way to inject those topics into an easy to, digest format, basically for kids to understand. So, and, that's basically what it was, everything that I put in the book was things that, just like I kind of spoke on earlier, were things that I wish I would have known about growing up, that you have multiple options in life, that the world is at your fingertips, that you have, many options, that you can explore STEM, that you can invest, that you can be an entrepreneur, that you don't have to go the traditional route. A lot of these things weren't taught to us or taught to me growing up. I was mostly told, all right, you either get out of high school and you go work, or you go to college, and then after that you still work. And that's pretty much all we learned, So in the book, I basically wanted to put bits and pieces of, different ideals. Me being a college graduate, I did want to express interest and kind of influence people into STEM. But at the same time, I didn't want to push the reader into one box. Because I don't like the feeling of being in one box as if, I have to do everything one way or I have to go one route. So I want to make sure I put that in the book. And that's why I put like a variety of things in the book, because overall, I want the kids to see that there are many ways that you can go about making success for yourself. You don't have to go the traditional college route. You can go the entrepreneurial route, or you can go the trade route, or you can go, the investment route. There are multiple lanes, there are multiple ways that you can find success. So I guess that was kind of just my process, just starting from a list of topics that were very important to me at that time. And then at the same time, putting a story together that would be, flow pretty well and that would be pretty interesting. And then, once I had my topics and I got the dialogue together, I'll say the hardest part was me, doing all the artwork. It took me a few weeks to do. I painted every image in the book on canvas. So I would say that took the longest, because I feel like that book was living inside of me. I just hadn't put it on paper yet. So I don't know. I guess once the pen hit the paper, it just basically, it came all out. Everything that had been heavy on me, or everything that I had kind of been learning and getting very passionate about at that time in my life, I just made sure I put it on paper, because I just know that just about everything that I put in that book, I feel like it's going to be relevant to the kids 15, 20 years from now. It's just far as, the way the job market is going to be and the way financial success is going to be found. And it's not going to be just one way. It's not going to be just traditionally college. It could be entrepreneurial. It could be investing. It could be you having a trade, having a company. Success could find you down many paths. So, I just basically wanted to wrap all of that into the book, and give them, not only tell them about certain things, but kind of just give a glimpse on, I guess, kind of how and what ways you could. Because a lot of times people give us the advice, but it's so surface level that we can't really make a plan from it. So when I put those things in the book, my hopes was to basically, expose you to new things you may not know about, and hopefully kind of give you a small blueprint, as a kid, if you're reading that book.
That's wonderful. A young friend of mine read the book along with me, and he came back and he said, well, I asked him, I said, pick up some tips and tell me. So I thought he was going to come back with like 4 or 5, and he came back with 10. So I thought, wow. So I went back and I looked and I said, yeah, for sure. You do find a lot of tips in this book. And like you said, they spoke out loud in the book, and people are hearing them. So I don't want you to give us any spoilers because we want people to buy the book. But what lessons would you say young people learn when they pick up this book?
I would say, well, most adults are pretty kind of open to the fact that you have multiple options, but a lot of people pick up the book and they learn actually about kind of real estate and stocks. I only had a few pages kind of pertaining to it, but even in the book, where to explain the stock market, I used a pizza and a slice of pizza being taken out of the main pizza, whereas the slice of pizza was the stock and the rest of the pizza was a company. I mean, I have grown people now who've read the book and they come back to me and they say, you know what, man, don't laugh, but I didn't really understand what a stock was before I read the book and I saw it in a colorful, image or whatnot. A lot of us have 401ks and we don't even understand what's going on in the stock market, let alone understand how a stock works. That's just kind of the reasons why, that's a huge reason why I put that in the book. It's a children's book, but at the same time, I think adults are learning things as well when they read that book, or getting tips, or just kind of, picking up things from the book. That, and I hate to say it, but the wake-up call of having the multiple incomes. I think that has been pointed out to me a lot in the book, because a lot of people say, yeah, man, having multiple incomes is kind of important. I do have a side hustle idea I've been thinking of, and that kind of sometimes they may inspire them to go ahead and try that side hustle out. That side hustle might replace your main job one day, and I'm just kind of big on that, especially because I experienced the layoff, like a year ago. So I know the benefits of having multiple lanes of income, and I know the feeling of only having one, especially when that plug gets pulled. So I'm kind of big on that, because I just remember the feelings and the depression that came with being laid off and let go from your main source of income. And you can feel like your back's against the wall, but your back doesn't feel against the wall if you have multiple streams, of finances coming to you. So it's kind of like, okay, that one river runs dry. Okay, let me pull water from the other one. And, I've kind of adopted that mind state from here on out, especially after dealing with that layoff. But, and I just kind of I want people to be the same way. I want us to always be prepared to be, just kind of ready for anything, because you just never know what can happen. The same way, you could have a company go bankrupt. You can have a product end up hitting a lawsuit. You could go to a job and get fired. You can have a layoff. Life happens. So to me, you should have multiple ways that your money is coming in, just in case one runs dry, or just in case somebody pulls the rug on one of them. You're still okay. So I'm just very big on that, because that layoff in my life came huge shock, huge surprise, and it just kind of had to dust myself off, look for jobs. But I just kind of told myself, like, hey, I'm gonna get a little more serious with this entrepreneurship. I'm gonna make sure I kind of got plan B's ready, plan C, D, E, and F, if possible. You know what I'm saying? So I would definitely say I've gotten a lot of credit from those two things in particular from the book, as far as the stock market, and then definitely with the multiple incomes, because they kind of hit a weak spot, especially when you kind of talk to people and they're like, hey, yeah, I got a 401k and I don't know how it works. I don't know how a stock works. And, these are things that we need to start learning,
That's great, because that's one of the things that Jay's dad told him right at the beginning. Have a plan B for your life. And here you are today. And it's really important, because this is Financial Literacy Month. So your message, I think, is really critical during this month, and for the rest of the year and going forward, that it's important to have a plan B for your life. It's important to always have multiple income stream if you can. and it's just digging deep and finding all those things. The illustrations in your book, well, I also found quite interesting, as well as the title. So I think for me, the two illustrations that I loved the best were the one with the pizza, because normally people use the pie, but you decided to use a pizza. So I found that really interesting. And also the second illustration, the second drawing that I found interesting was the one where the man is biting into an apple that is really the earth. And that for me, I responded to it not just by the sight, but also because it made me imagine an art that I think is about 6,000 years old. So that emotion, the mysticism, the religious part of it, it was just an experience. So why brown money, and why that particular artwork in the front of your book?
So I named the book Brown Money. It's basically a play on words. Brown people, colored people, us. Us as African Americans. And it's just kind of play on words. And basically what I wanted to do was, put multiple different ideals of ways to make money for us as brown people to make money, or us as brown people to start thinking of money or to view money. And I know it starts with the youth. So that was the whole play on naming it Brown Money, because I was mostly speaking to us. That book can be for anybody, of course. I don't discriminate against any race, but at the same time, a lot of those things that I put in the book, us in the Black and brown community, we don't learn those things. We don't learn about stocks. We don't learn about real estate. We don't learn about STEM. So that was the play on brown money. I want the idea of brown money to expand, meaning I want basically the wealth gap or the wealth, acquiring of Black and brown people. I want it to grow. I wanted to expand. I wanted to increase. And, I named it Brown Money so that it would catch kind of just, just a play on words, because in our communities, we aren't enlightened on those things. We may know about the latest social media app, or we may have a favorite celebrity, but a lot of times we don't really talk about finances or how to talk about getting ahead in life or investing, or, just having some type of savviness when it comes to finances in the brown community. So that was the whole thing on, calling it Brown Money. It was just kind of a play on words to catch your attention. But then once it catches your attention and you flip that page, I'm hoping that the artwork keeps you, just kind of interested while you're absorbing that message. And so with the cover, I painted that image about 6 months before I even wrote the book. I had an idea of like, okay. And, I was at a point where before I wrote the book, I did like 100 paintings in like a year. I just went paint crazy. I was painting probably a painting every 2 days. And that was just one idea that I had when I did that painting. I was like, okay, let me think of a powerful painting. Let me think of something that we don't get to see every day. And that was the Black man holding the globe. The Black man basically being bigger than the world, being powerful, holding the world in his hands, having the world at his fingertips, having just a little bit more control than we usually are shown to have. So that's what that image is all about. Whenever I see that image, it just, I don't know, it just wakes me up and makes me want to, just try more things, because me seeing an image of somebody who looks like me holding the globe in his fingertips and taking a bite out of it, just looking so powerful and just, having no boundaries to the power they have, that's what that image is basically, illustrating. And it's hopefully to inspire that we have power in us. We have more power in us than what we see on TV or that we see in the media or the narrative that is kind of painted out for us all the time. So when I see that image, I can care less about a stereotype. I can care less about what the mainstream narrative is of my people and, people who look like me when I see that image. Because when I see that image, I see the Black man / woman being powerful, holding the world in their hands and just kind of having control having more power or having more options than we usually, are given the image to look. Because I feel like a lot of times, especially in the media, we're kind of in a victimized state, or we're made to look weak or inferior or dumb. So that image alone, just whenever I see it, the way that he's biting out of the earth like an apple and he looks so careless, just so at home, so comfortable. That was the main thing for that image. Because when young brown and black kids see that image, I want them to see themselves. I want them to see themselves having options, having the world in their hands, having power, having control, having options. I'm real passionate about that image. I love that image. Even after I painted it, and I was like, man, I got to do something with this image one day. And then once I had the book, it was a no-brainer to make that the cover. Because just like I put in the book, the world is at your fingertips. I really believe that. Like, I really believe that. I really do. Maybe I might be a little crazy, but I literally believe that I have all the options as long as I have air in my body. I can do whatever that I think of. I can do whatever that my fingers can do. And I'm gonna stand on that until I leave. So, that's what that image means to me. And I wanted kids to feel that power that I felt when I was painting it. So I think that was the biggest reason that I chose that as the cover.
It's a wonderful image. It really is. And like I said, it reminds me of a painting, or not a painting, a sketch that they found in a cave somewhere in West Africa. This is about 6,000 years old. So, it's like an old thought coming back in a new way, in a brand new 21st century way. So it really is a powerful image. So at this point, I am going to turn it back to Dr. Vaughn. Thank you so much, Mr. Wilson, for talking to us. It's been a fascinating conversation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, wow, wow. That was really good information. And it's always a pleasure to hear an artist, an author, give us a peek behind the curtain in regards to what inspired what they put on paper, what they put on canvas. So thanks for just personalizing that for us. I'm really appreciative also of how personal you got it to us in regards to the experience that you had with the layoff. That is a reality that tens of millions of people in this country, and certainly more around the world, experienced last year because of the global crisis. And for you to speak about how you overcame the shock, the depression, and turned it into a positive is a message in and of itself. So one last thing that we want to make sure that we do before we wrap up this time is remind us quickly again, where can we find Brown Money? How is it that people can follow you? What are your social media handles? All that good stuff.
Okay, so you can find the book on Amazon.com. You can just search for it, type in Brown Money, Warren Wilson, or you can go to warrenwilson.com. That's my author website / artist website. And I have links to the book on there as well. You can either get a copy from me, or I have a link on that I send you to Amazon. And I also do like wholesale packages for schools or, organizations or things like that as well. And so you can also find me on Facebook. That's at Warren Wilson. That's WARN Wilson. And you can also find me on Instagram at Warren Wilson. And that's WARN Wilson. That's a family name. So a lot of people like to spell it with 2 R's, but yeah, so those are pretty much the 2 social areas that I hang out on. I am on LinkedIn as well. You can find me at Warren Wilson Jr. on LinkedIn. Those are pretty much that's where you can find me hanging out on the internet if you ever want to reach out to me via social, or you can shoot me an email at mail@warrenwilson.com.
We got it all. And once again, we really, really have enjoyed having you with us today, Mr. Warren Wilson Jr. Thank you so much for sharing with us a bit of your journey, and we look forward to even more to come, especially when that 4th book hits. We will be looking forward to learning about that. I'm going to turn it back over to Brandon Newby at this time to see us out. Take care.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of High Tech Sunday. Career Communication Group's High Tech Sunday looks at professional development and technology through the lens of spiritual philosophies. In a time when digital information is more critical than ever, this weekly program is produced by and for CCG's community of alumni and professionals in science, technology, engineering, and math fields. The community runs from national thought leaders to aspiring students, and this weekly series aims to bring a concentrated discussion around technological advancements and achievements based on universal moral principles. The 1-hour podcast will be streamed every Sunday. The podcast can be accessed through the BEA Facebook page, Women of Color Facebook page, and CCG YouTube page, in addition to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Podbean, and Spotify. Please join us next time.